Well, hi everybody. Joe Chaffee, Fios 1 News Long Island and Fios 1 News New Jersey.
And Joe Rayo, Fios 1 News Lower Hudson Valley. And turned out to be a pretty nice day today, Joe.
And it did. Saturday was nice. Yesterday was a horror. One of the things I noticed yesterday where I was up on the North Shore, it's still it's wooded up that way, and plenty of snow cover still. But when the fog came in the afternoon, and then late in the afternoon into early evening, it really looked just awful out. It was just this darkness that came in during the mid and late afternoon and just sat there. But that's done.
Yesterday was the Mayo Pack St. Patrick's Day parade, and my wife and I had all intentions of marching, but then when we looked outside around 10 o'clock, slush from the previous few hours, and the temperature on my outdoor thermometer was 36, and I looked at her and she looked at me and I said,
I'm not doing this.
Better luck next year. It ain't happening this year.
All right. Well, today was really nice. Got up into the 50s.
Yes.
And now it looks like we have no weather issues, I think, through Thursday evening. Before, at the absolute earliest, that we're going to get into anything in regards to any kind of a shower activity.
Yeah, we haven't. The one thing about this winter is that what few days we have had, which have been nice, that's it. We've had like a 1 or 2 day. We haven't been able to string together, let's say, more than 3 or 4 days of nice weather. And you're right.
I don't even remember the last time we did.
It may not be until Thursday night or maybe even Friday that we'll finally see showers. But even on Friday, there is the possibility. And I say that because we were talking about temperatures yesterday, last week, if you remember, we were thinking that yesterday might make it into the 50s. It never did because the warm front never made it through. So assuming the warm front does make it through here on Thursday night or Friday, we should, or at least we have the potential of getting to 60 degrees perhaps.
All right. Let me just say right now, while it's fresh on my mind and I forget, tomorrow night I will be at the Westwood Library in Westwood, New Jersey. It's right off the Garden State Parkway up in, well, it's in Westwood, New Jersey, so put it in your ways, at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So in case you haven't put your clock an hour ahead. But come on out. We'll be doing all sorts of weather stuff, and we'll have a lot of fun. We always have a lot of fun at these library talks. Westwood Library, Westwood, New Jersey, 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
I guess this is going to be, what, the post-mortem of the winter of 2018, 2019.
Well, we'll probably talk about that, and I'm sure we'll usually at these things we look at whatever's going on, short term, and folks will be asking probably about the summer and the rest of the spring and the summer and the hurricane season and next winter and all those things that I really don't like to answer or can't answer because I don't have any idea, unless of course you think I orchestrate all the weather around the world because I'm part of that cabal that controls the weather. But I'm not.
I've already heard rumblings on some websites and some Facebook pages about a potential snowstorm for the 20th of March.
Okay, so you know what? Since you brought it up and I didn't, all right, let's look at what exactly everybody is looking at and talking about. So,
which is also the first official, astronomically, the first day of spring.
Correct. So let's bring up. I'm going to bring up les connections de tele, or as they are more commonly known as les teleconnections. And we have. Let me just open this up so we can make it look nice and pretty. Of course, for those of you who will follow these things, and we do look at them. For the first time, it hasn't been like this through the whole winter season. Now, all of a sudden, the Pacific North America Index, or the PNA, spikes to an off-the-wall reading going into next week. And this is what everybody seems to be playing on. Very quickly, what that is. The PNA, that index, the Pacific North America Index, or PNA, it measures pressure changes over various areas in the Pacific and in North America. And when it's strongly positive, it favors a deep trough in the eastern part of the United States, or a trough in the east, and a ridge in the west. But it also takes into account stuff that's going on in the Pacific. Many times when we've had bigger snow events here, it's because the PNA has been very strongly positive. And this is what everybody's jumping on. But I'm going to throw already some cold water into all of this. First off, the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, which is our blocking friend from Greenland, is non-existent. Okay, it's positive through the whole next 2 weeks, which means that weather systems are going to be free to move along as they darn well please.
Well, that just simply means, Joe, doesn't it, that if we do get snow, it's not going to be one of those prolonged 2-day storms.
No, it would be in and out if it were to happen.
In and out, yeah.
The other thing, Joe, and this I think is a big part of the equation. The EPO, or the East Pacific Oscillation, pressure changes in the East Pacific. When it's very negative, like it was last week, and a few other things are in there, in the wrong place or the right place, depending on how you want to look at these things, we turned very cold. Well, we're going into a negative reading next week at the same time. The problem is it's not very negative. Right. So this would at least suggest that while it might be colder than normal, it won't be super colder than normal like we had last week. And I would say that this time of year, we're getting past the middle part of the month and going towards St. Patrick's Day and beyond. This is not last year. This is a different pattern, different scenario, and you're going to have everything lined up perfectly in order for this to happen.
So in other words, the cold air, that what there is very modest.
Well, it's there, but I wonder, it would be enough for something if it was January or February. I just don't think it would be enough for something now, this time of year. Mm-hmm. I just don't. I think it's just not going to work. And I want to I'll bring up the paint box if I can find it. All right, so hang on a second. So give me a minute to set this up. And where is it? Come on, folks.
Because I know not a few people have asked me. They asked me last Monday morning, for example, is this it? Is this the last round of snow? Well, of course, yesterday morning there was still snow and sleet to deal with, at least up where I live. But I guess people are wondering, is it will we have a shot for one more potential significance?
Right.
Not biggie, but
I'm going to bring up the upper air because I want to show everybody. I did this on my YouTube show today, so I think this is what's happening. So here we go. I got the paint box going, so everybody will be seeing this in a second. So here's our upper air jet stream pattern for Wednesday morning. Okay, let me bring it full screen. So here. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Well, what we're looking at is the highs and lows in the upper atmosphere, and the same rules apply counterclockwise around lows, clockwise around highs. Okay, so if you follow that along, here's your jet stream across the Pacific, deep trough. Okay, deep trough here out in the west, big ridge of high pressure building up the east coast.
And there's going to be a very big snowfall over the plains and Rockies.
From that I just circled, that's the system. Correct. Right. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
But over the next couple of days, it's going to roar out of the lower plains or lower Rockies tomorrow, go north and east. It's not going to rocket, actually. It's going to move at a slow but steady pace, and will probably bring, I think, near blizzard conditions to parts of North Dakota, for example, Nebraska, on into Minnesota over the course of the Tuesday through Thursday period. And meanwhile, we're on the warm side of all of this, which is why we're suggesting that temperatures are going to warm nicely beginning Wednesday and continuing on through the end of the week.
Right. Now, from here, this is what the jet stream is supposed to look like on Wednesday. That storm is really the catalyst to drive this breakdown of this pattern where the upper trough is in the west and the ridge in the east. So from here, in just 5 days, as we head into the weekend, and hang on, I had it here just a moment ago. Where did it go? Hang on a second. Here we go. Copy. Okay, so now I've put up the jet stream pattern of what it's going to change into by Sunday, and it's Joe. It's a complete 180 here from what we've had,
right.
what we're going to have, what we have now, and what we're going to have for the middle of the week. Because now you've got your trough is in the east, and there's little short waves running around. You've got this big this ridge that's starting to build up in the west,
all the way through the Yukon.
And by the way, this is the reason why I think the Pacific North America Index is so overwhelmingly positive. It takes into account the area that's north of Hawaii. There's a really deep, super deep trough and storm that's going to be developing there. I think that's the reason why it's so strongly negative. Right. That's the area that's playing big. It's playing less so here in our neck of the woods and over North America itself. So I kind of think, to me, looking at this, it would suggest to me that the jet stream, while in a quote-unquote favorable position, it really isn't in the most favorable position because it looks like it might be a little bit too far east and too flat. I still think you've got the same issues in the Atlantic that we've had all along. It's a
fire hose.
Fire hose.
Mm-hmm.
The fire hose goes straight across with very little until you get toward the other side in Europe. That hasn't changed, and if that's the case, anything that tries to develop, I would think, would probably wind up staying well to the south and east. That's what makes sense to me.
Right.
Look, I could change my mind tomorrow or Thursday if I start to see certain things happening, but I would. If I were a betting man at this point, I would have to say that it would favor to me that it would go out and stay flat.
Well, if you look at all the various models, the only one really that seems to be blowing its horn about this potential on the 20th of March, or around the 20th, is the CMC, the Canadian model, which put out some ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, the European today actually kind of skimmed New York City and Philadelphia with a couple of tenths for the first time. Look, I'm not impressed by this. I'm just not. And, when we look at this, by the way, as we go through whatever happens, this is going to be a short window next week because after we get through next week, guess what? You start to, this particular run of the GFS says differently, but I argue that I don't think it's going to look like this. I really don't. This would be a kind of a cold look going into the last days of March. I'm not agreeing with this look. I kind of like the look from the other run, which is much more looking like a spring pattern across the United States.
The Climate Prediction Center, NOAA's Climate Prediction Center, actually for their 8 to 14 day outlook, has a broad swath of below normal precipitation, dry conditions for a good part of the central and eastern United States, including our neck of the woods. So if you're counting on something that might possibly bring some snow here on the 20th, that doesn't kind of fit their projections, again, going all the way out that far.
Right.
But again, things change. In 8 to 14 days...
who knows?
Exactly.
Exactly. All right, so let's run through this storm in the Great Plains, because this is really a powerhouse. And by the way, folks, just to... I'll show you on the watches and warnings in a bit, but this is a really wrapped up low. I mean, it gets down to a 972. The gradient is incredibly tight here.
Now, if there's one part of the country that has been getting hit over and over and over the last few weeks, it's that area of the country.
Big issue is going to be for parts of Iowa, especially northern Iowa into southern Minnesota, eastern Nebraska, eastern South Dakota. There's going to be rain, and plenty of it, coming on record snow cover and an absolutely cement ground because they've been bitter cold. So you put 2 inches of rain on top of this, there's going to be some flooding, and they've already got flood watches up. They've got blizzard warnings already up for parts of western Nebraska, and I think they might have even extended it to parts of northeastern Colorado.
And then after you get the rain, eastern Nebraska and southern sections of Minnesota, we'll see that rain go right over to snow.
Right.
Maybe not the heavy-duty snow that places to the west and to the north will get, but still, you're going to get all of that rain on top of that frozen ground, and then you're going to compound everything by putting a new batch of snow on top.
Right, because after Wednesday evening, the low actually begins to weaken slowly as it moves toward the Great Lakes.
Look at that pressure gradient.
Yeah, and when it gets here, Joe, it's just going to be some showers here on Friday. I don't think this is going to be any big deal.
No.
And then the St. Patrick's Day, it's a 2-day weekend because Sunday's St. Patrick's Day, so I think the parade is Saturday.
They have the parade is
on
Saturday
because you can't have it on Sunday. And you've got high pressure from coast to coast on St. Patrick's Day. It looks like one of these rare instances, at least it's been rare in the last couple of months, where the whole country is going to be pretty much on the quiet side weather-wise. So that's a good thing.
And they march which way now on Fifth Avenue? They go up or down? Uptown or downtown?
I think they go. I want to say they go uptown. That they start.
I think they go uptown because I know I march.
And they end at 86th Street.
Right. I march with my wife in the Steuben Day parade every year on Fifth Avenue, and we go from south to north. So if that be the case, they'll be marching from south to north on St. Patrick's Day, or actually the day before, as you pointed out, is Saturday. But they'll be marching probably into the wind.
Yes.
It looks like a northerly component of the wind, or northwesterly. But again, you go down the city streets or whatever like that, they'll probably divert that wind straight into your. So, but it's going to be what in near 50 degrees.
Yeah, on Saturday
50,
I would think it might be low
50.
50s.
So
here's the
okay.
watches and warnings that are up. The brown area is all high wind watches, so they'll probably go to warnings with that gradient. The orange is blizzard warnings, northeastern Colorado, and surrounding winter storm watches, which haven't been upgraded yet. Some warnings are up for parts of Wyoming, but that's that flood watch area from Kansas, but particularly in eastern Nebraska through Iowa and southern Minnesota. That's something that's going to have to be watched. And there will be a severe weather outbreak in western and central Texas on Tuesday and Tuesday night, and that's something we're going to have to watch as well.
I tell you, if anybody out there who's in our immediate area complains about the weather locally, you have absolutely really nothing to complain about. All you have to do is just look what's going on out west, or look what has happened in the southeastern states with all those tornadoes and that severe weather. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had our share of unsettled conditions, but certainly, it's a far cry from what other parts of the country have been getting.
And Joseph Anthony, one of my top fans, wants to get one blizzard for the winter. Joe, you know something? This is something that hasn't been mentioned yet, but this will be the first winter since 11/12 that there hasn't been a 10-inch plus snowstorm
in this area
in New York City.
It's true.
Yeah, that's aside from being the snows from last week brought the numbers up closer to average. It's going to finish subpar, but not horribly subpar.
Right.
But this will be the first winter since 2011-2012 that we haven't seen a 10-inch plus snowfall, and we've gotten so used to 10, 15, 20-inch snowfalls over the past 15, 20 years.
Well, this winter, maybe not so much snow, but I think ice and sleet played a major component in the precipitation this winter season. It was a weird winter, Joe. The upper levels were just too warm for the snow, and yet the bottom layer of the atmosphere just cold enough to allow for the freezing precipitation to occur.
There is a pattern on troughs and ridges that's never been studied. That's why so many forecasters miss their forecast, says Bob Apple. Bob, I'm not sure what you're trying to say though. There's a pattern on troughs and ridge that's never been studied. That's why so many forecasters miss their forecast. I'm not understanding. Elaborate if you're still on. I'm just trying to.
If he's making an allusion, for example, to yesterday, because again, a week ago we were talking about how Sunday had the potential of making it into the 50s, even possibly 60, and it came nowhere near that. But then again, as we got closer, you started thinking to yourself, that warm front, is it actually going to make it through?
And it never did.
And I'll say the same thing about this coming Friday, because now there's a goodly amount of snow cover over New England. You get the cold air damming effect, and sometimes these weather fronts just get stuck, and they never make it through. It wouldn't be a complete surprise, even though officially we're saying 55, 60 on Friday.
Right.
It would not be a complete surprise to see temperatures barely make it to 40 or 45 on Friday.
Depending on what the wind direction is,
right.
If there's an onshore wind of some kind. Frank LaSalandra was up in Woburn, Massachusetts on Sunday and got 16 out of it. Nice.
Lovely.
And Daniel Kirby, who's down in the mountains of Western Virginia in the Blue Ridge, 65 for the season.
Wow.
For him. Addison Green says hi.
Hi, Addison.
Addison, you have to be into work tomorrow. You should be headed to bed, for God's sake. He's very...
Watching the best of the biz right here.
He's very observant. Have I told you that?
Yes. Does he have one of your little badges or whatever?
Yeah, is he a top fan? No, he's not. Why aren't you a top fan, Addison? I would protest. Jason Barry is a top fan. So is William Huber. No bulbs coming out of the ground yet. You know, it's funny you should bring that up because I've got daffodils that have come up every year. I planted them 30 years ago at my house, and I haven't been paying attention because they're in the area that has still some snow cover.
Right.
So I got to take a look to see if they've come out because usually by now they're already out by at least several inches.
I mean, it's weird. All through most of January and through it seems most of February, my lawn was wide open. I mean, you could see the grass and everything else. And so far, since March began, it has been almost, I'd say 75 to 100% snow covered. It's interesting that in where the trees, the oldest trees, and I guess the root system where it's most complex, that's where the snow has melted off quickly. I guess that's because it's bringing in water or whatever. But I mean, like, it's still, I see more snow now, as we're now just a little over a week from spring, more snow now than I did like in the middle of the winter time. It's crazy.
Bob Wilson wants to know if I'm going to live stream from the library Westwood tomorrow. I'm going to try, Bob. I'm going to try. It depends. Libraries, depending from one library to another, some places the signals are good and some not so good. So if the signal is good, I will be live streaming it to my YouTube channel. Okay, so if that's the case, there will be a link that will go up. And if you are since you are a top fan, you should get a post. I will put up a post directly to you. Addison says he was a top fan and they took it away from him.
Oh, really?
No, that wasn't me. I didn't
know that could happen.
That's weird. Why would they? Yeah, that's odd. They keep adding people. Maybe it goes according. I don't know. Facebook's got all these weird rules that they stuff
Jason
appears.
Barry, Addison, come to the library talk. Well, Addison's in a difficult situation. He's where, in Queens or?
Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
Addison can come.
He could.
Brittany might show up.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Okay.
She may come by.
If I come, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, because you won't make it back in time to do your stuff.
Right, and your stuff too.
And my stuff too. So
right.
Yeah, that'd be a bit difficult. All right, so you know what's coming up on 10 minutes to the hour. Just as a reminder, if you joined late, I will be at the Westwood Library in Westwood, New Jersey, which is a really good place for the Westwood Library to be. It's absolutely free at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. It's right off the Garden State Parkway in Bergen County. I looked at it on the map. It's easy to get to. So by all means, do come out. We have a lot of fun at these talks. And I'll be shamelessly self-promoting something or another. So
I'm sure you will.
But we do have a good time. So everybody's invited. If you can make it, that's great. If not, there'll be other ones along the way. I think I got one coming up in Mamaroneck, believe it or not, in June.
Okay.
Okay.
It seems strange because I remember you were talking about this one coming up tomorrow.
Right.
Way back at the beginning of the winter. And I said,
well, they booked it early. Actually, I've had this. The Northern New Jersey Weather Observers set this up, and so this has been actually in place for about 6 months. I think. So yeah, the time just finally just went by quick.
Here it is. Really.
So the next one I have is going to be in Mamaroneck. I believe it's on Saturday, June the 8th. But when I cinch that up and get the info, that's only a couple of months from now, and that'll be here soon enough. All right, so you've got what, the Valley Hudson at the top of the hour?
Yes, and you are doing the Island of Long.
Yes, and
also New
Jersey.
All for Fios One News.
Fios One News Long Island, Fios One News New Jersey. He's Fios One News Lower Hudson Valley.
Correct.
Brian Fitzgerald, I think, is on tomorrow morning, and Addison Green and Brittany Bohr will be on in the afternoon. You will be here by yourself tomorrow night. I'll be back with you on Wednesday.
My God, if you're going to be at the library and Brittany's going to be at the library, there's a chance for taking selfies and autographs and everything. There'll be the two of the stars, the weather stars of FiOS 1, in the same building at the same time.
There's not room for two of us. No. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.
Have
Good
a
night.
good one.